Yeah, you can whatever. Oh yeah. For the whole thing. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So no, but that's a good title.
Necesitamos que salga el PowerPoint en la pantalla.
No, Pam has a good idea for a title.
What?
Yeah. But it will be live on our COP25 Facebook page. Yes. It will be live there. Okay. Perfect.
In the moment where I insert the title, you see.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I don't need the notes. Just I don't care. It's better if I can have the presenter view. If it's too complicated, it's okay. Yeah, duplicar. Oh, perfect. You're so good. Okay, thank you so much. Oh, that's okay. It's working. Okay,
I'll just stay right here.
Muchas gracias. I know that really. I was starting to understand. So. We have some pictures for you guys.
I prepared this video for you.
Oh wow!
One moment.
You're joking.
The moment for she prepare and it's okay. It's
So professional. Yeah. Oh, it's okay. It will be live. Yeah. Thank you. That's okay. Yeah. Ah, now we're live.
Buenos dias, everyone. And welcome to this first day at the COP25 Cryosphere Pavilion. This is a cooperative effort between a number of organizations, academic institutions, and governments. And today, this first day of the COP, when everyone is getting settled, we thought it would be a good time to introduce everyone to the early career scientists who are volunteering at the pavilion throughout the course of the COP. And then later this evening, we have a youth event. So youth and early career scientists are the focus of today's pavilion events. Tomorrow, we have mountain and glacier and snowpack days, and we're looking forward to that, as well as the formal launch of the pavilion with the Chilean science minister, as well as the Swedish minister for international development. But right now, we're going to have a series of presentations. You'll see the schedule on the Facebook page of the 4 early career scientists who are here this week. And first off is Dr. Heïdi Sevestre, who has actually had her PhD for 5 years now? Yeah, she has done research on Svalbard, Greenland, Antarctica, and in the Himalayas, primarily focused on mountain glaciers. But she has recently turned her attention to science communication, and she's been working especially with French TV on how to commute climate change, especially in cryosphere regions, to the general public. So, Heïdi, I know you're going to be a good communicator.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pam. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. It is a real honor, actually, to be the first one opening the series of talks at the Cryosphere Pavilion. So today, I thought I would tell you a little bit about my background and also how I came to work more in science communication today. So there you go. I'll walk you through the journey of Heïdi Sevestre. So I've been very lucky to be able to do my PhD in Svalbard. So I was based there for 4 years, and I was studying the dynamics of surging glaciers. And don't get me wrong, I loved my time in Svalbard. I had absolutely the best time of my life there. It was absolutely brilliant. So for those of you who are not so familiar with Svalbard, it is located in the Norwegian high Arctic, so it is halfway between northern Norway and the North Pole. So Svalbard is a very, very special place. It is really, really far north in the Arctic, probably one of the most accessible places of the Arctic. And what's incredible is that there is actually a university there, the northernmost university in the world. So this is what Svalbard looks like. This is a compilation of satellite images taken in the summer. So as you can see, there is a lot of ground that is covered by ice, about 60% of the ground actually. So Svalbard belongs to the Kingdom of Norway, and it is truly paradise for glaciologists. Wherever you go, you're never very far away from glaciers. Glaciers are everywhere, and there is a university in the heart of everything. So it's just so easy to do fieldwork. But the reason why it's so important to do fieldwork in Svalbard is that, first of all, because it is one of the most accessible parts of the Arctic, but also it is one of the places in the Arctic that is warming the fastest on Earth. And actually, it is one of the places on Earth that is warming the fastest at the moment. So it is very important to have scientists there, scientists focusing on fieldwork. And the little town of Longyearbyen, so just here, is actually the northernmost normal community in the world. There are army bases that are further north than this, or scientific stations, but basically, yeah, it is kind of a normal town, really far north, so 78 degrees north. So Svalbard is known for its polar bears mostly. This is why most people go to Svalbard, so there are more polar bears than inhabitants, which makes actually our fieldwork very, very difficult. But polar bears are still very much used today as these big symbols of climate change, and truly they are being terribly impacted by climate change around Svalbard. So this is what Longyearbyen looks like, so the capital city, the capital town of Svalbard, and just close to the fjord, just here, this is the university. This is UNIS, the university center in Svalbard. So I stayed there for 4 years, from 2011 to 2015, and I'm still very lucky to go back every year to teach at the university, to teach on the glaciology course. And it is truly climate emergency happening in Svalbard. So at the moment, what we can see is that Svalbard is warming up twice as fast as the rest of the world. So the permafrost is melting very, very quickly, impacting the infrastructures in town. There are avalanches happening in the middle of the town, which is something that didn't happen before. Landslides happening every year. And of course, the glaciers all around Svalbard are melting very, very quickly. So when I was doing my PhD there, I was thoroughly enjoying it. There was a lot of field work, of course a lot of paper writing, but there was something that I was extremely frustrated about. It was the fact that all that mattered in my career as a scientist was to publish papers for the scientific community. And I was not really pushed to go beyond that. But what I was seeing every day was so dramatic, was happening so quickly, that all I wanted to do was to tell everyone about what was happening in Svalbard. So this is where I started to understand that actually, as scientists, we can go a lot further than just publishing our PhD, than just publishing papers. We should go beyond this and try to communicate our science as clearly as possible. So I started this little project called Glaciers on the Move. I'm glad there is an introduction to this project. So Glaciers on the Move is a project that I started in Svalbard. It is a project that is funded by the Svalbard Environmental Protection Fund. And what we try to do is actually to raise awareness about the surging glaciers of Svalbard, which is exactly the topic of my PhD. So surging glaciers are absolutely incredible. There are these glaciers that can accelerate very, very quickly. They can change behavior from 1 month to the next. They are very dramatic. But we do not understand them very, very well still today. And most importantly, the population of Svalbard really has no idea about these surging glaciers. But these glaciers in Svalbard, they have an impact on the population. Because when they start to accelerate, they become extremely crevassed, extremely dangerous. And this is what we try to show with this project, Glaciers on the Move. So let's see. Oh, I'm not sure if this video is going to work. Let me check. We're testing today, so let's see what's happening. Oh yeah, it is working. So I can't see it here, but it's happening there. So basically, this is a time lapse of a glacier surging in Svalbard. At the peak of the surge, the glacier was moving at 16 meters per day, 16 meters per day, which is extremely dramatic for a glacier. This glacier is about 30 kilometers long, about 3 kilometers wide. And can you imagine, in Svalbard we use glaciers as a path, basically, to use snowmobiles to go from one place to another. But when one glacier like this one starts to surge, it destroys everything. I mean, it becomes so crevassed, so dangerous, that it becomes completely impractical. So people cannot drive snowmobiles on it anymore. So with this project, this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to combine photography, time-lapse, with the science to be able to make this topic exciting, interesting for the population, and make an exhibition at the Museum of Svalbard. So I was very lucky to work with a very talented photographer, David Rangborg, and we did 2 field campaigns to collect as much material as possible on the surging glaciers of Svalbard. Because I had all the data in the world you can ask for, but when it comes to communicating this topic, then I was really lacking good material. And that's, I think, is something very important, that when you do field work, when you go to these faraway places that people really never get the chance to see, it is so crucial today to collect really high quality material, to be able to have all this outreach information that will make your topic very, very exciting. So in Svalbard, just to show you again that glaciers are surging everywhere at the moment, and we are starting to identify more and more surging glaciers. And we do know that, of course, this is related to climate change. It's related to the fact that the oceans are getting warmer, glaciers are melting faster, and it is actually forcing many of these glaciers to surge. So every time there is a green circle, there is basically a glacier that is waking up and accelerating very, very quickly. And these images were compiled by Adrian Luckman in Swansea University. So the very big one in the northeast is moving at 30 meters per day. So it's very, very fast, yeah. For Svalbard, these are very fast glaciers. So as you can see, from one year to the next, there are many glaciers that start to wake up and start surging. So we installed also a lot of time-lapse cameras, because this is one of the best tools we do know in glaciology to explain what's happening. I think we've all seen the documentary Chasing Ice, and I was really inspired by this. So I built my own time-lapse cameras, and I also got some cameras from a French company. And I think the success was kind of probably 50% success, because half of our cameras got destroyed by bears. But it is their environment. So, I mean, they have the right to do whatever they want. But it was very useful for us to be able to show the dynamics of surging. And so we picked up all the cameras last summer. This was the last camera we picked up here, close to Tunabren. And now everything is displayed in Svalbard, which is fantastic, at the Svalbard Museum. And it is great, because right now it is completely dark in Svalbard. There's nothing to do except going to the museum. So you can go and see your exhibition for free at the Svalbard Museum for 3 months. So this is just to give you some ideas about what you could incorporate in your research. And it is very popular in Svalbard. People are so excited to know more about their environment. And to combine science and art is a really nice way to do it. Just to give a little bit of science between very nice pictures, it really helps. So the second project I'm currently working on, this project is called Climate Sentinels. It basically started from a frustration, again, in the fact that when we do fieldwork, the field campaigns we do are usually quite polluting. And I know that this is a bit of a taboo in our community, that usually we prioritize the science and we don't think too much about how we're going to communicate the science, about how we're going to try to make the science more sustainable. But this is what we want to show with this project, that it is possible to do science in a very efficient way while trying to lower your carbon footprint as much as possible. So Climate Sentinels is basically for female scientists. We're going to do an expedition in Svalbard next year, focusing on black carbon, on the deposition of black carbon on snow. So here again, I'm going to tell you more about our communication strategy and what we're trying to do with this project. So the aim is to do this expedition in April 2020. So it will take about 4 weeks to go from Ny-Ålesund, which is in the northwest of Svalbard, to Hornsund, which is a Polish research station. And we're going to be doing this on skis. Because in Svalbard, it's way too easy to take a helicopter, take snowmobiles. But actually, the first scientists, the first explorers used to do it on skis, and it was absolutely no problems. Of course, we had to compromise on the science. We're not going to drag a ground-penetrating radar, some equipment that is very easy, that needs a lot of power for 4 weeks. No, of course not. But that doesn't mean that you cannot do any science while trying to have a very low carbon footprint. So what we're going to be doing is collecting snow samples along the way. So it's about 500 kilometers. So we have calculated we can take samples every kilometers. We can do snow density pits at regular intervals, every 5 or 10 kilometers. And we will also help validate ISAT-2 data, so this satellite that is measuring the height of everything on Earth. But sometimes the lasers of the satellites penetrate a little bit in the snow. And by walking for a month over snow and glaciers, we can actually measure the height of the snowpack, the thickness of the snowpack, and help validate this. So these are my teammates, my brilliant teammates. So there is on the top left, Alia Khan. She's a professor at Western Washington University. She is the absolute expert in black carbon. There is Dorothée Valo, top right. She's based in Sweden. She's a glaciologist, and she's working at the Swedish Meteorological and Hydrological Institute, if that is correct. Then on the bottom left, this is Celia Smith-Johnson. So she's just actually graduated. She just got a PhD, so she's now a glaciologist, and she graduated from Bergen University. So our project is, of course, about collecting data, studying black carbon, trying to identify where that black carbon is coming from. But what's even more important for me is the way we're going to communicate. And we're working with the youth everywhere around the world, and that is very exciting. So for this project, we have created partnerships in our 4 different countries. So in France, Sweden, Norway, and in the US, with schools. From kindergarten to high schools, we are working with a lot of different classes. So we started this work in September, and at regular intervals, we're Skyping with them, we're giving them some tasks, and what they're doing at the moment, these schools, is that they're building instruments we're going to take with us to Svalbard to collect data. And they will be collecting the same data, if they have snow around them, the same data at the same time. So for them, it's just a way to make them excited about the science, to make them understand what it's like to be a scientist today. And of course, the fact that we are 4 women, we didn't do that by mistake or by chance. We really wanted to change kind of the face of polar science. We wanted to show that, no, that's not just 20% of us. I think in the last IPCC report, the percentage of female scientists is 20%, which is very, very low. So we wanted to inspire, empower the young generations to get into science, to be excited about the science, and of course to understand what's happening and what they can do about it. So with the French classes, they're really focusing on solutions at the moment. So this is very exciting. So why not, for your next project, collaborating with schools at regular intervals? Throughout the week, I'm going to be Skyping with my schools, actually. They really want to know what COP25 is like. So this is just to give you some ideas. And the last project I want to tell you about, and I'm glad that Marcela is here, because it's something that we started, something that I've been thinking about for a while, but it started to become a reality not a long time ago. This is a project on tropical glaciers. And here again, we're combining science with communication. For us, it's very important to always do both, not just one or the other. Tropical glaciers are becoming extinct. I mean, they are disappearing very, very quickly. They will not survive. Most of them will not survive by the end of the century. We'll all be gone. And for me, it is very important to help raise awareness about these tropical glaciers, to help people understand that there are still glaciers in the tropical regions that are disappearing very, very quickly. And it's just so important for them to understand what glaciers are. Why are glaciers so important? Where is their water coming from? And this is why in early November, actually, I spent 2 weeks in Colombia with the project Cumbres Blancas, that is led by Marcela, who is just here. And so for us, it is just so important to get the science out there and help the local scientists as well. So just to tell you more about these tropical glaciers, we find them in 3 different regions. So we were very lucky to be able to go to Colombia, but they are also found in East Africa. You all know Kilimanjaro, Mount Kenya. There is also the Rwenzori Mountains. And the last 2 or 3 glaciers of Oceania are found in Papua New Guinea. So very few people know about these glaciers, but I think we could somehow use them as a big symbol of climate change as well, because it is so surprising to have glaciers in those places. But of course, it is a race against time. Things are happening very quickly. And I think in terms of communication, that makes it very important. When you explain to people that what you are studying will be gone in the next 5, 10, 20 years, suddenly it gives a sense of urgency and people start to care a lot more about your science. So what is happening, for example, in Colombia? In Colombia, we were very lucky to work with Jorge Luis Ceballos from IDEAM. And in Colombia, they've been monitoring their glaciers for a long time, but 92% of the ice has been lost since the 1850s. So there are still 6 mountain ranges with glaciers. We were able to go to 2 of them in early November, and we really insisted on the communication, and that was great. We spent some time in the mountain collecting data, installing time-lapse cameras, but we spent just as much time back in towns, in Manizales, in Pereira, back in Bogota, explaining what we were doing. And people were very interested, people were very excited about the project Cumbres Blancas to see that citizens are trying to raise awareness about these glaciers. Just some other information about another region, the Rwenzori Mountains. There are just a handful of glaciers left. So this is between Uganda and Congo. And the glaciers are going to disappear very, very, very soon. So these glaciers are in a national park that gets a lot of precipitation. But of course, the precipitation is falling as rain, more as snow. And so the glaciers are really suffering from that at the moment. And the last glaciers we would love to go to, but it might be too late in the next few years, is of course Indonesia. So these glaciers are called close to the Carstensz Pyramid. It's one of the 7 summits. So it's actually a very popular place for mountaineers. But there is also one of the biggest gold mines in the world. And in terms of safety and security, it makes it very, very difficult to go there at the moment, because the local populations are really fighting with the mine, which is something I understand. So it makes it very, very tricky to do science there at the moment. So what did I do more specifically when I was in Colombia? So I was working with Cumbres Blancas, of course. My big goals were to install time-lapse cameras. Again, because time-lapse cameras, I mean, you don't need a PhD in glaciology to understand what's happening to a glacier when you're showing a time-lapse. So we installed 2 cameras, and actually right now, Dr. Jorge is in Cocuy, so in one of these mountains, checking one of the cameras. So I'm a little bit nervous to know if it's still alive, if it's still running. But also what we did with my friend Nina, she's a PhD student at Ohio University, and she's focusing on how can you educate people about glaciers without bringing people to the glaciers. And this is a question that I get very often at the moment. For people who have never seen a glacier, never even touched snow, how do you create an emotional bond with these environments? Why should people care? And what we're testing at the moment is 360 video. So that's what Nina is holding, is a 360 microphone with a 360 camera on top. Look at this equipment, how lightweight this is. This is something we could all take in the field with us. And it's like having a companion who would like to know about glaciers. And you could tell this camera what you're doing, what kind of fieldwork, what kind of instruments you're using. And I think this is a fantastic tool to get people completely immersed in this environment, to get people understand that, oh, it sounds very windy. Oh my God, I can hear someone talking on the other side. And this is just a great technology that we could all use when we do our fieldwork to help communicating about the science. So there you go, it really helps to reconnect people with the cryosphere. So this was just a handful of tips, tools that we could all use in our own research, because at the moment I feel that we're really missing something in terms of the way we communicate it. It is so important to do the science, so important to publish it, to get our science in the IPCC, to get our science in the ICCI reports. But we should go beyond this. We should really make the science exciting. We should make it accessible. And by using all these different tools, we can really make a difference. There's no doubt about it. All right, thank you very much. So if you have any questions, I would be very happy to answer them. Looking around. All clear? Ah, Benjamin, one question. Ah, wait, we need to give you the microphone so that people can hear your question.
Thanks, Heïdi. I'm just wondering if you could speak at all to your experience with getting funding for these kinds of projects.
Absolutely.
And how we can incorporate this kind of work into our sort of established mechanisms for getting funding. What are your tips for that?
Yeah, so when it comes to funding, I mean, we all work very, very hard for it. There's always funding, especially when it comes to communicating the science. There is more and more funding. In Svalbard, it was quite easy, quite lucky, because they have this Svalbard Environmental Protection Fund, and they're just so keen to make people understand the value of the ecosystems of Svalbard. So they were very, very supportive. So now when it comes to climate sentinels, we're working a lot with the schools. The schools are really helping us in this way, but also because it is such a big physical challenge. It is an expedition. We are also looking at brand deals. Other sponsors that usually fund some people going to the top of mountains. We're not doing this, but we're still doing a big physical undertaking. And this is one way to get funding for this. Then when it comes to the last tropical glaciers, so the last project that we did in Colombia, at the moment we're still looking for funding, but there are many, many options. There are lots of foundations. I can just mention the Prince Albert II of Monaco foundations. But it's true, there is a lot of funding. And now these funding bodies are just so keen to help the scientists to communicate their science, especially with the young generations. So, yeah, go for it. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, and really looking forward to the other talks this afternoon. Yeah, if you know them by heart. You don't? Okay, I can dig out the program.
Yeah, so we're going to take a break now, and the next talk, Heïdi?
It's at 2:30, and it will be Mr. Benjamin who will be talking about the ice sheets. Yeah, perfect. Okay, don't miss it.